Hello again, I'm Roger Reynolds and welcome to another video review. Today I'm looking at the Kingwin LZ-850 850 watt power supply. What's included is the user's manual, modular leads, 4 thumb screws, a power cord, and the power supply. The laser line of power supplies are currently available in wattages ranging from 660 to 1000. I'll be reviewing the 850 watt model. Now, how is this wattage determined? Well, to understand that, you need to know what rails are. Rails are basically well-regulated transformers which convert domestic current into the voltages that your computer system can use, and there are essentially 2 different rails, the 3.3/5 volt rail and the 12 volt rail. In this particular case, the approximate maximum peak output of the 3.3/5 volt rail is 170 watts and the 12 volt is 816 watts, which is essentially how the wattage of this power supply is determined. The 3.3/5 volt rail is responsible for the motherboard, memory, PCI cards, and so on, while the 12 volt rail is responsible for the hard drives, optical drives, fans, CPU video cards, etc. Also, some might be interested to know the peak amps on each rail. Well, the plus 3.3 volt is 24 amps, and the plus 5 volt is 30 amps. Now, there are 6 plus 12 volt rails. The plus 12 volt 1, 2, 3, and 6 are 20 amps each. The plus 12 volt 4 and 5 are 33 amps each. And the maximum load for this power supply on the plus 12 volt rail is 68 amps. There are a number of important things to remember when selecting a power supply. The first is wattage. Determine how much wattage you are going to require by the amount of hardware that you will be installing. Generally speaking, a medium to high-end gaming rig would require a 500 to 700 watt power supply. For a hardcore system, select a power supply that's around 800 watts. If, however, you are building an extreme gaming rig with a top-of-the-line multiple video card setup with lots of other hardware, get a power supply that's 1000 watts or greater. Second, it should be at or above 80% efficient at typical load. The efficiency of this power supply is rated around 87% at typical load. Third, it should meet the latest ATX and other current standards, environmental directives, ultra voltage, under voltage, and other protections. This power supply meets all current standards. Fourth, I'd recommend choosing a power supply that has APFC. APFC, or active power factor correction, assists the power supply in being more efficient and therefore stable under load. APFC basically reduces total harmonics, corrects input voltage, and allows for full input voltage range. Thankfully, this power supply has APFC. Fifth, there are 3 main certifications: 80+, NVIDIA SLI, and ATI Crossfire. Many of today's high-end power supplies meet one or more of these certifications. This power supply meets the 80+ bronze certification. Sixth, look for a power supply that uses Japanese capacitors. This ensures a much more reliable product than a power supply with low-grade capacitors. Now, I didn't get confirmation whether this power supply has Japanese capacitors or not. Finally, get a power supply that has enough leads for your setup. Also consider a power supply that has a modular design because it reduces the cable mess inside the case. Now let's have a closer look at this power supply. It has a black paint finish and the housing is steel. They also include a temperature-controlled, quiet 140mm fan. So, the hotter the inside of the power supply gets, the faster the fan spins. The 140mm fan and the honeycomb ventilation ensures maximum cooling, so the power supply should remain cool in any environment. Here's the power cord connection, power switch, and a 3-way LED switch, so the fan's LEDs can be turned off, white, or blue. This power supply has plenty of leads, but the main 2024 pin, 4, 8, and 8 motherboard leads, as well as a single 6 and 8 pin PCI Express lead, is hardwired into the power supply and can't be removed. But the remaining are modular leads. Modular leads are fantastic because you only need to use the ones required for your particular setup, which reduces the cable mess inside the case and also increases airflow. Note that every modular lead connector has a rubber cap, so you just remove this when you want to connect the modular lead. Now this is very interesting because if you have the LED for the fan set to white or blue. If you connect a modular lead, look what happens. It will glow. Blue or white. You can also use any modular lead in any of the modular connectors. Finally, have a listen to the 140mm fan. I prefer modular power supplies simply for the fact that I do not want to deal with unnecessary cables. Now, this power supply isn't completely modular, but it's mostly modular, and the main leads are hardwired into the power supply, and they are going to be used anyway. Also, this power supply comes with a very quiet 140mm fan, and remember, the LEDs on that fan can be turned off, set to a blue or a white color. And I love those modular leads. When you connect them, they glow if you have the LED set to a white or blue color. And remember, you can turn all the LEDs off simply by flicking a switch, which is nice because some people do not like LEDs. The performance on this power supply also is very, very good. Overall, this is a kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.